Hey, food explorers, welcome. Today's episode is going to be kind of fun. There is a gentleman on YouTube, and I find him fascinating. Some people really hate him. I find him fascinating. So, Bryan Johnson is this guy, and his whole thing is don't die, live to be 200. And I was watching some of his videos, and I found a mistake. Bryan Johnson, I am so sorry. I think you're the cat's pajamas, but there's a couple mistakes in your nutty pudding recipe. So what I wanted to do today, just for fun, is actually make the nutty pudding recipe with the corrections in it. I'm not trying to be a smart ass here. I really am not. But I kind of get a little irked when, you have a recipe and it's got ingredients listed and then not in the instructions, or something's in the instructions and you're like, what? Or all sorts of different things. So welcome to today's episode. And if you're new here, my name is Colleen, and pretty much every week, sometimes I miss, I either have an interview with somebody that's in the food industry, or I do some recipes where I make something kind of fun. Sometimes I just do solo episodes. I have a lot of cookbooks. Sometimes I just talk about the cookbooks that I have. This week, though, we're going to make a recipe. So nutty pudding, Bryan Johnson's whole thing is to, live to be 200, don't die. You have to have a diet that is optimized for all the nutrients that you need and what does your body need to reverse aging or not age in certain ways. And like I said, he gets a phenomenal amount of hate online. But if you watch like a couple, 2, 3, 4 videos, you start to see he has this really dark, sarcastic sense of humor. And I giggle. I giggle every time. I always am like, oh, that's kind of funny. So without further ado, nutty pudding is one of his, he kind of thinks of it like his treat, and he says in his video, the saddest part of his day is when he has his last bite. So what is in the nutty pudding? It's a whole bunch of ingredients. So macadamia nut milk. The recipe, so everything is on his website, his blueprint website, and I'll link all of that below. So in his website, he has all the recipes, and then he has some options. So for this one, for the macadamia nut milk, it's either 50 or 100 milliliters. So you can do either, okay? Macadamia nut milk. Then we've got ground up macadamia nuts. So lots of macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are great, full of omegas, and they're, really nice, mild flavor to them. I absolutely love them. Then he's got 2 teaspoons of ground walnuts. So if you remember, a couple episodes ago, I actually did a whole thing about activating nuts, and the nuts that I did was the walnuts. So we're going to use the walnuts from that episode today. We also then have chia seeds. Now, it says 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. I love chia seeds. They're fantastic. Every day I make a chia fresca. So here is where we have mistake number 1. He has in the ingredient list chia seeds. In the video, he shows at the end of making everything in the Vitamix, to put the chia seeds on top. But chia seeds just like this, they're super crunchy. They're really crunchy. This is not necessarily the texture that you want. So the correct thing to do is not be a smartass, but to actually soak your chia seeds. So when you soak chia seeds, they kind of make this gelatinous kind of mass to them. And with the soaked chia seeds, now they plump up. My boyfriend Jason likes to call them fish eggs. I make a drink with chia seeds every day. But when they're like this, they're actually quite nice to have. So I just want to show you sort of what chia seeds that have been done in the water are like. Now, with the chia seeds, this I'm not going to actually use in the recipe. I'm going to use the 2 tablespoons that he says, but I'm going to show you how we're going to incorporate them. So you're going to make the nutty pudding and you're not going to eat it right away. You're going to actually let it sit for a little bit so that the chia seeds can get plump like this. This doesn't take very long. Typically what I do is I will put the chia seeds in my water, let it sit for like a minute, give it a stir, let it sit for a little bit, give it a stir, just so that I don't have clumpy chia seeds. Now, ground flaxseed is also in the recipe, and we grind the flaxseed. You can use like a NutriBullet, or if you've got a Vitamix. But pro tip, you want to keep that ground flaxseed in the fridge. It will oxidize, it will go rancid, so don't just grind it and then leave it out, on the countertop, in the cupboard, or anything like that. Actually keep it in the fridge. So that's another little pro tip for you as well. Now, on his website for the recipe, he now has cacao powder as one of the ingredients. On the video, because he says, go to the video to see the prep. It's not in the video. So I'm going to show you. We got to put the cacao powder in. So that's another little mistake. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I just keep finding all these mistakes. Sunflower lecithin powder. Okay, let's just talk for a second here. I am the person that has all the ingredients in my house. You need chia seeds? I got them. Flax seeds? I got them. Sunflower lecithin? I got that too. I have a lot of superfoods in my house. It's just the way it is. If I look over to the counter over there, I have tons of superfoods. So for me to make this recipe was really easy. For you, you might be like, okay, I don't have flax that's ground. I don't have sunflower lecithin. I'm not stocked in chia seeds at home. So take this all with a grain of salt. Maybe you don't have all these ingredients at home, and maybe nutty pudding is not for you. But I am very excited to try this because the recipe actually does look great. I have my cinnamon next. So we got some cinnamon. And then the recipe says a half a cup blueberries, raspberries, or strawberries, and is your choice. I am going to do strawberries. Now here's the other thing. The recipe says a half a cup. The recipe has no instructions. So it's just kind of one of those things that makes me a little crazy. But you watch the video because it says watch the video. And in the video, it shows that a quarter cup is actually going to go into the Vitamix with all the other ingredients and be blended up. And then you're going to save a quarter cup and use that as your topping afterwards. Okay, so the recipe says half a cup, but it's actually divided up into a quarter cup. 3 cherries. So I have 3 little tart cherries. Have those in my freezer. Yep, I got cherries in my freezer. Of course I do. And then pomegranate juice. So if you're like, what the heck are all of these ingredients for? Go to his video because he actually explains what each ingredient is for. Brain health, heart health, antioxidant, adding in protein. It's very well formulated. So when you're looking at the recipe, it totally makes sense as to why you would put it all together. Now, I'm actually going to start with, because the macadamia nut milk says you can do 50 to 100 milliliters, I'm going to start with 50. I have another 50 right here below me. So if it's too thick, I will add the other 100 milliliters in. So I'm going to throw that into my Vitamix. If you don't have a Vitamix, you could use a blender, because this recipe, of all the ingredients that we're using here, there's nothing that's going to need to be like really ground up and incorporated. So if you don't have a Vitamix, a regular blender, you could even use, honestly, you could use your food processor too. So maybe the cherries wouldn't be blended up as well as you wanted them to be blended up, but for the most part, you're going to be great. The pomegranate juice is just regular POM, unsweetened. I added my liquids in first. With your Vitamix, you want to have the liquids in the bottom, so you create basically a vortex, and it pulls and incorporates all of the ingredients in. I am going to throw my 3 little cherries in there, my tiny little cherries in there. Like I said, only a quarter cup of the strawberries. I chose strawberries. So only a quarter cup is going to go in, and then the rest are going to be for the top. So in you go, my little friends. And then I'm going to put that over to the side. And we've got our macadamia nuts. So that was 3 tablespoons of macadamia nuts. We have our walnuts from our walnut recipe, our ground flaxseed. Ground flaxseed smells amazing. It's like very nutty kind of a smell to it. And quite a few of these ingredients have a lot of omegas in them. And, you know, having a lot of omegas in your diet is a very, very good thing. It helps with, you know, lubricating, joints, brain health, eye health, all of those things. Now, the cacao powder, again, the cacao powder is on the recipe. It's not in the video where you're supposed to learn. So in the video, you'll see that the mixture is a very nice, bright pink color. So I'm interested to see what color this turns out to be, because it's not going to be a bright pink color. Now, we're going to have all of these ingredients going in. Toppings are chia seeds, the strawberries, and then he also has an optional topping of protein powder. I'm actually going to do that optional topping as well. So I'm going to blend this, but I don't want you to have to listen to me blend this. So I'm going to just mute this part right now, because the Vitamix is a wonderful piece of equipment, but oi, it's loud. Alrighty, all blended up. In the video, basically says to blend until it is frothy. It is frothy. And then it says to simply just dump it into your bowl so that you can enjoy your nutty pudding. Now, it's not pink because, of course, there is cacao powder in there. And it's one of those things where he actually does updates to the recipe. So originally the recipe actually had Brazil nut in it for selenium, but he now has something else in his diet in one of his other, either in one of his other recipes or in the cacao, that he is not using the selenium. I cleared away a couple of the pieces of equipment. I like to have a clean working space. Now, when I'm in full chocolate production, I do not have a clean working space. Let's just be honest here. The last part of this is to put in the toppings and ingredients. So 30 to 60 grams of pea protein powder. I'm going with 30 grams, and it's a lot. It's a lot of grams in there. The 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually put the 2 tablespoons of chia seeds in, and we're just going to mix them in. So before I put the protein powder in, I'm going to let these chia seeds start to soak up a little bit of the liquid from the nutty pudding. I did, when I was scraping out the Vitamix, have a little taste of it. It's actually quite good. And I will actually throw the strawberries, have a little bit of liquid in here as well. So I'm going to actually throw my strawberries in here as well. Give those chia seeds a little bit of extra liquid that they can soak up. This recipe, I think it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to make. Like I said, it's just a couple of mistakes. So the recipe doesn't specify that you actually take that half a cup of fruit and divide it into a quarter cup and a quarter cup into the Vitamix blender, food processor, whatever it is that you want to use. Other quarter cup for the topping. It also doesn't have the chia seeds, to just put the chia seeds on top and start eating. Like, this is going to be a crunchy mess. I don't want to eat that. So the chia seeds as well. Flax seeds, making sure that those flax seeds, because they're ground flax seeds, they are staying in the fridge. And then the recipe said that you could use 50 or 100 milliliters of the macadamia nut milk. I just used 50 milliliters, but this is actually made like quite a big bowl of stuff. And if you're thinking, is that really a big bowl of stuff? It's actually a pretty big bowl. This is bowl that we got from a local potter. We like to support our local pottery people. And I just eat everything out of a bowl now. I don't really like using plates anymore. Now, is this going to be super filling? Yeah, this is definitely going to be super filling. I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, this is going to fill me up. So this is one of his, like, he only does like a couple meals a day. He does this intermittent fasting, which is interesting because I actually started back in March. I started intermittent fasting. This isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to do it. It actually works for me. So I do 20 hours, no eating, 4 hours eating, except for the weekends where we just eat whatever we want to our little heart's desire. So, of course, you know, if you're new here, you don't know, but if you are not new here, you know that we eat at Kalina. We eat there twice a week, every week. And we also add in eating at Bebo, which is owned by Kalina. So just, I mean, if I'm going to eat out, I'm going to eat really good food. Now, this is already starting to thicken up with those chia seeds. And you could, realistically, if this is something that you wanted to try, because you too want to live to be 200, don't die, hashtag, you could make this and leave it. So you could make it, maybe have it for lunch. It's not going to take the chia seeds very long to floof up. Technical term, floof up. But you could probably also make it maybe even the night before. And when I was looking at the ingredients, like I was thinking to myself, if this is something that I made all the time, I would actually batch things. So I would batch like the cinnamon, the sunflower lecithin, the cocoa powder, and the chia seeds, or not the chia seeds, the flax seeds. I'd probably batch them and just keep them in the fridge. And so then you would just figure out based on how much stuff needs to go in per recipe, what that is for a scoop, right? So say, because you got a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of sunflower lecithin, 6 grams of cocoa, and the flaxseed, like what does that equate to in, you know, a quarter cup, half cup, just to make your life easier. I would also take the macadamia nuts, the walnuts that are all ground, and I would probably batch those as well. So if I was doing this all the time, that's basically how I would do it. So you can see already, and if you're listening, you can't see, so I'm going to tell you, it's already thickened up. And it's only been about 2 more minutes since I stirred it last. So I'm just stirring it as we go along, mostly just to make sure that the chia seeds don't clump up, because they will kind of clump up into, you know, these sort of bigger chunks of chia seed. And again, you don't really want that. I am going to add the protein powder in a second. I think the only other thing that I really wanted to say about this recipe was it's really interesting when people put recipes together, and especially for something like this where they're thinking about the actual function of every single ingredient. Like, what is the function of my sunflower lecithin, right? So good brain health. What is the function of my pomegranate juice? Heart health. So each of these things actually has a functional component to it, which is, it's fascinating. I absolutely love stuff like this. And I used to do a lot of recipes with superfoods, and I think I'm going to get back into doing that again because I actually really enjoy just playing around with different superfoods. I was chatting with a friend today and we said, oh, we were at the health food store the other day, and there's Haskap berry freeze-dried powder now as a supplement, like on the market. And I thought, oh my goodness, because Haskaps are very popular here, sort of Alberta and Saskatchewan in Canada. They are described as like the prairie superfood. They're like a longer, they almost look like a blueberry that's kind of been elongated. So that very dark purple color. They're on the spectrum of, I would say, sort of sour sweet, but they combine really well. Like I just polished off a entire container of Haskap cherry jam. I used it in a bunch of chocolates and it was delightful. And then a few scoops might have went to me and then to the recipe. You know how it is. One for you, one for me. But I quite enjoyed it. And it was interesting to see this product that was new. I'm always looking to see what are the new products in the health food stores, or like just new superfood products that are coming out. I will do an episode actually about superfoods because a couple years ago I was part of an unconference. So Charles Michel, who was on the TV show The Final Table, I jokingly said to Jason, I'm going to become friends with him. And then I did because he's a cool dude. But he kind of made it to like the top 4. And in that show, it was a lot of, how do we create, an interesting, sustainable item using some of these different foods. So his partner was I think he was from Colombia or Ecuador. And then Charles Michel he's French, but he also is Colombian. So he's dual citizenship, I think. And I was really fascinated by what they were doing. And so I became part of his group. And then I was at this unconference where I actually presented with another person that was part of the group about superfoods. And we talked about the amazing opportunities that we have here in North America for superfoods, but what's the impact locally on some of these countries where the superfoods come from. So things like quinoa. Well, quinoa is a staple food for many people in South American countries because it's a complete protein. It's very healthy for you. But now that it's here in North America, it's become a food that's not available to them. They're kind of priced out of the market because they can sell it for so much more money to North Americans so that we can have, quinoa, whatever. I don't really like quinoa. I'm sorry for those of you that really like quinoa. I don't really like it. It's not my favorite. All right, this is nice and thick now. Delicious looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste it right now without. So live tasting. So you can see the look on my face as it goes into my mouth. I'm just going to grab a spoon. Oh, I have a lot of spoons behind me here. So this is without the protein powder, and that was kind of like, you could add it as an extra. So this is just the recipe with the cacao in it, which is not in the video online. That's actually quite delightful. Very nutty, smooth. Chia seeds need a little bit longer to soak. That's actually not bad. He also says that if you want, you can add a little bit of manuka honey or trehalose for sweetness. I have trehalose. I actually do. I'm going to add a little bit and see what I think. Okay, so I know some of you out there are probably thinking to yourself, you have what? Trehalose. It's a sugar, and it is so when you're doing baking or doing pastries or any kind of confections and stuff, sugar has a mass to it. And if you want to have sugar, but maybe you don't want it as sweet as like a sucrose, so like a straight up granulated sugar, you can use products like this. And so it's basically like powdered sugar. It's going to be quite sweet though. So if I just taste, yeah, so it's got a sweetness to it. So I'm actually going to add a little bit into my mix just to add a bit of sweetness. I think just on its own, it's good. I don't mind it at all, but I do want it a little bit sweeter. So I just added a little bit of that in there. I'll have a little taste. See what I think. Yeah, just adding that little tiny bit in there actually made quite a bit of difference. And then I'm going to plop in all my protein powder and mix that in as well. So all in all, I can see why this is very filling. Am I going to live forever and don't die eating this? Who knows? Who knows? I will say that just putting in the 30 grams of protein, I don't know if I could actually fit 60 grams in here. And I understand why he's doing it, because, you know, he's keeping his muscle mass up and he's a bulky guy. Yeah, I don't know that I would want to put 60 grams. Actually, you know what? I guess if I did do 100 mils of the nut milk, then I could see putting the 60 grams of the protein in there. That's actually quite good. Yeah, I could eat this whole bowl. I don't know if I could eat this whole bowl in one sitting. Seems like it would be very filling. Anywho. That's it for today. Just a short episode just to talk about this. Again, Bryan Johnson, I think you're fabulous. You crack me up. You give me good entertainment for my watching time. But if you want to try this, I'll put the recipe link below. And maybe you want to try this, and maybe you want to make some nutty pudding of your own. I have a chocolate mousse recipe. I've been seeing all these really crazy chocolate mousse recipes lately, and so I'm going to hit you up with some chocolate mousse in a day or so. With that, wherever you are, if you feel so inclined and you would like to subscribe, hit the like button, send a comment my way. I would love that. I want to get conversations started because I love getting conversations started. We actually, on our Substack, we're getting some really fun articles written, and I've got a whole bunch of sort of nostalgia articles coming up that I can't wait to share with you. So if you like to read stuff as well, Substack is also where we're at. Other than that, have a wonderful day wherever you are, morning, noon, or night. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great one.